What you realize is everyone has the same problems, the same issues. There's nothing that is unique to you. And I should know this, right? Because I taught religion to middle schoolers, and I tell them like the sins of today were the sins of 1,000 years ago and 2,000 and 3,000. Like nothing changes. We're still human. It doesn't matter if now we have the internet or AI or anything. It's all the same. The problems of humanity are the same problems that we've always had. We can look at the New Testament or the Old Testament or, our daily lives. It's all there.
Welcome back to Catholic Founders. I'm your host, Silas Maynor. Catholic Founders is on a mission to help Catholics launch and grow their businesses in a way that helps them become saints because of their business, not in spite of them. As Catholic entrepreneurs, we are not created to achieve earthly glory. We are called to be instruments of God's will in the world, to bring glory to Him. Before we start, if you are interested in sponsoring this podcast or the newsletter, please reach out to admin@catholicfounders.com. We'd greatly appreciate your support. All right. Our guest today is Zuhair Madanat, the founder of Autoglass Experts out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Many of his friends know him as Zuzu, and you'll probably have seen him a little bit on the internet, especially if you're in the Catholic circles. And he has a very inspiring story of starting his autoglass repair business and growing it to 13 employees and 3 locations in about 5 years. But more inspiring to me is how he runs his business with total trust in God and with putting his people first so that they in turn can put their customers first. This has led them to stand out in the market, in their particular kind of niche of the market, while not being the most expensive, but also not having to compete at the lowest end of the pricing spectrum. I pray that you listen to this with an open heart and allow the Holy Spirit to tell you and direct you how exactly He is calling you to adjust or to integrate or change how you are running your business. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks be to God. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you for coming on, man. You're a legend. Your name is getting around in the space, and we had to bring you on because we've obviously gotten to learn a little bit more about you through the Catholic Founders Guild recently. But you've got some really cool stories, man. So I'd like to get into it. If you can just give us a quick heads up of who you are and what your company is, and then we'll talk about the story a little bit.
Zuhair Zuzu Madnat. Most people know me by Zuzu, but it's funny. I always tell people in the States I'm Zuzu Madnat, and in the Middle East I'm like Zuhair Ziad, Zuhair Salim Khalil, Aoud Ibrahim Mdenat. So it's like, but like that's the pride. It's like a Holy Land Christian. That we have. We know the generations. We know the people that fought to keep the faith to this day. But yeah, born and raised in the States, and my parents immigrated to the country. My father was an entrepreneur, and I told myself I would never do it because I didn't see him very often because he was always working in the business. But yeah, I ended up starting my own business, Autoglass Experts. We are in the Charlotte metro area. We've got 3 brick and mortar locations, 10 mobile units. So we go out and do the mobile installs for Autoglass. Basically, you're, locally owned and operated. Safe Light is the easiest way to explain it to people. So yeah.
Yeah. How did you you said you didn't want to start a business. What were you doing before you started your own business?
I was teaching for 3 years, middle school, religion and social studies. I loved it. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it, but I was teaching. I was a server, like a waiter in a brewery. I was reffing high school and college soccer. I was house hacking. I'm renting out rooms in my house. And I still was like just not really saving money and working so much. I loved everything that I did and all the people that I would meet. And it wasn't that I was like unhappy, but I knew that God was calling me to marriage. And I was like, I can't even like hang out with friends, let alone get to know somebody. So something's got to change. Yeah, things
What year
changed.
what year did you move towards like the very beginnings of entrepreneurship and was it directly into Autoless Experts at first?
It was, yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of the people in my family are entrepreneurs. And so my whole life, I just kind of found ways to make money in the summers. Like when I wasn't teaching, I would like go buy cars that had blown motors or something. I'd have my friends and I would just like fix the car up, get it to where it was running and smooth. We knew everything was probably going to be good. and then just sell it and make like 500 $1,000 per car and just kind of extra money, or cell phones, iPhones, replace the screen, replace the battery, and resell it and just make a little bit of money. And you just do a little service for the community in some way. It never was like a business until like COVID happened, things were shutting down, and then I was like, all right, let's get serious about this. And that's when I started Auto Glass Experts. And yeah, thanks be to God. I mean, God was just there from the beginning. From even I mentioned to you the story of my first van and how I got it. Just driving down the road and seeing a van. I'm like, yeah, that van could work. And pulling up, and the guy's like I think he was a Baptist minister, and he was like, yeah, on the weekends I'm in the church, and during the week I'm here selling cars. And I'm like, well, that means you got good cars because you're probably praying over all of them, making sure that they're a blessing to the people that buy them. He said, yes, sir, I do. And he's asked me, what do you want this van for? And I said, well, I'm thinking about starting an auto glass business, and I think this would be perfect. And he just like paused, and it's like, wow. Yeah, you've heard of like Autoglass? He's like, my son does Autoglass, and I bought this van for him to use. And he told me that he liked the van that he had, and I didn't know what I was going to do with this van. And so he sold it to me. He said, I have $4,200 in it, and that's what I'll sell it to you for if you want it. Because this is obviously from God. And like, it's kind of just been that way ever since. It's just,
The whole thing, the whole ride.
yeah, God has just been really, yeah, just really there taking care of me. And yeah, it's hard to take credit, and when you just know he's been a part of everything. It's hard, I know that he uses me and I'm his instrument in this world, and I'm bringing his light into the world. But yeah, it's really humbling.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, did you feel at any point like you were running away from entrepreneurship because it kind of ran in your family for so long that it took you just kind of this I don't know, very obvious situation where it's like, hey, this is really from God here, to go to it, or was it something you weren't necessarily running away from? It just took you a while to really get into it.
No, I definitely think I was running away from it. And I wasn't like, there was no intentional thought, but there were so many times that I was doing things that I could have taken to another level and just like started a business. But I was so scared that I would end up in the business, super busy, and just, like doing the things that a lot of small business owners get stuck in, is like, I can't leave the business. I can't do anything. There's so many times my mom would take us on vacation. My dad would stay in the shop. And there were times, right? My father did the best that he could. And I have phenomenal, just amazing parents. And I wonder to this day how they did all of the things that they did for us with all of the struggles that they had. But I didn't want to have to make all those choices, those
Yeah.
sacrifices that my father had to make. And so I thought there wasn't another way. And then I read this book called Managing as If Faith Mattered, and it kind of broke things down. And that was like the first business book that I ever read. And funny enough, I was like a business major, and I don't remember reading business books. Like a textbook about economics, yes, but like an actual business book, I don't think I'd read until I read that book, Managing as If Faith Mattered. And it was in seminary. We had a class, and it was like, how are you going to be able to talk to small business owners or business people in general if you become ordained a priest and they're coming and asking you, like, how do you run things, or how are you going to run the parish if you don't really know how that's supposed to work? So we read that
Mm.
book in class. Yeah, Father John Mark Miravalli, shout out to him, amazing man. And so I read that, and I was like, wow, if small business owners knew that this was the way that our faith is guiding us to run their business, it would look way different. And I think that kind of like cracked it open for me to be like open to the idea that you could have balance in your life if you did it in such a way. And the church, like, it teaches it. We just
Hmm.
don't always hear about it because we're
Yeah.
so much into our personal lives.
I mean, that's a really interesting point. I think it's that this is something I encounter a lot where people just haven't considered the idea of starting a business in some cases because it
Hmm.
is generally like secular coded, right? It's like it feels like all the things that we see the most about are just hustle culture and getting rich so you can have a Lamborghini and have a big house in Miami and all that stuff. And it's like, no, that's not the point of it, right? The point of it is leaning into our co-creative abilities and our ability to, like you said, become an instrument of God's will in the world, right? So I really appreciate you sharing that, because hopefully other people listening who are maybe on the fence about it can consider their own situation and recognize that, hey, maybe this is what God's calling me to. I'd like to get a quick snapshot then. So you buy your first van to start doing, I'm assuming, like mobile auto glass repair or replacements, and then fast forward. When was that? And then fast forward today. How big is the business? How many employees? How many locations?
Yeah, August uh 10th, 2020, I replaced my first windshield on my own. And I mean, it wasn't a disaster, right? The windshield was fine, but like I wore khakis because I wanted to have like, customer service. I wanted to look professional. It was August in Charlotte. I was sweating through those khakis, and I don't sweat. Like you can ask anyone, like I don't sweat. Even like I love playing sports. If someone is sweating, I like don't want to guard them because I just am not used to it. Sweat everywhere, my whole body. I don't know what those, I think I was just nervous and there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, August 10th, 2020, I still really, I think like the guy that washed my car gave some lady my number and was like, oh yeah, he could replace your windshield. And she called me and I did it for her. But I like didn't really have any of the tools all set up. I had to get all that real quick in the morning and did it for her in the afternoon. I went from that to then like in 21, I hired my first employees around the same time, August. End of 22, we got our first shop by accident. I just happened to walk by and ask someone if we could have a bay in their building. And then end of 24, we got our second location. And then uh, May of 25, we got our third location. So just been, slowly trying to scale year over year. We've been like a little over 50% in like increase in revenues. It's been quite the ride, and a lot of lessons to learn along the way. There's times when you do like you want to trust in God. Um, and it's just big decisions, right? Like the most money I ever made a year was less than 40,000. And now I'm like dealing with much more than 40,000, a year. And how are you a good steward of that? And what do you do? And like you prayerfully consider everything. But then like last year, we didn't make a profit. And I said, well, God, like, did I do something wrong? Like, did I make a mistake? Was it me? Did I do something? And I was really concerned. I was like, all right, God, if this goes away, then just let it go away and just show me whatever I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm doing this just, to glorify you in the world, to provide for my family, but I could do anything. It doesn't matter. And then like this year we started to like turn a profit again. And I was like, okay, all right, maybe we're good. And it's, it's just the journey of being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. I did just want to share that because sometimes people think like if you start your own business, you're rich. I'm not rich. I still drive the same 2015 Toyota Camry, and I
Awesome.
love it. And I pour a lot into the business to make sure that my team has everything that they need. But it is a blessing in so many ways, and I see a path forward to where it can just continue to bless more and more people. Yeah, because sometimes people hear like from a van to like 3 locations and 10 stores, and it's like, yeah, and then I got my Lamborghini, and I don't have any of that, and
Yeah.
I don't want any of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very curious. Like, this is also something I'm going through now is how did you, it's been, coming up on 6 years now in total doing this. How do you go through the mental challenges of like, I'm sure there's days where everything seems like, oh man, this is great. I love this. And then, maybe even in the same day, you're like, wow, this is crazy. This sucks. Like, it's all going to fall apart. And it's just like the kind of vacillates between the two. Like, how do you make sure that you maintain that trust in God? Because it's easy to understand intellectually that He will take care of us. He'll be with
Hmm.
us, and especially if we accept the fact that the success component isn't what we care about. Like, we're trying to do God's will. Success is about doing God's will. It's not about making X dollars. Like, how do you remind yourself of that in those tough times? Do you have friends that you talk to? Do you have like a regular routine of adoration? Like, what is the way you do that? Hey guys, Silas Maynor here. If you'd like to host a Catholic Founders meetup in your area, reach out to us today and we'll help you organize it. It's not good for us to build alone. It's better to work together with the other Catholic business owners in our community so that we can assert our influence and bring the culture back to God. But all of this starts with knowing who the other Catholic business owners are. It starts with friendship, whether that's over breakfast, over bagels, going to adoration and spending some time together for drinks afterwards, doesn't really matter. We can't do this without friendship. Reach out to us at admin@catholicfounders.com and we will help you organize your event, get started, and promote it. Thank you for being part of this community.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I got to the point to where I was like really struggling. I couldn't talk to the people, like some of my friends that were in auto glass in the industry. I didn't have a lot of friends around here that were entrepreneurs, and I didn't really know um, who who I could just open up and share the highs and the lows with, and I would internalize it a lot. I just reached out to different communities. I'm a member of EO Entrepreneurship Organization. That's been a real blessing. I mean, you have like 2 workshops a month that really helped me to level up. I never worked in corporate America really, so I didn't know a lot of things about business, and it's been such a blessing. Not only do you have like those workshops, but you also have your forum, which is your group of a small group of like 6 to 8 people, and you just share everything with each other. And what you realize is everyone has the same problems, the same issues. There's nothing that is unique to you. You may think that, but nothing is unique to you. It's all the same across the board. And I should know this, right? Because I taught religion to middle schoolers. And I tell them, like, the sins of today were the sins of 1,000 years ago and 2,000 and 3,000. Like, nothing changes. We're still human. It doesn't matter if now we have the internet or AI or anything. It's all the same. The problems of humanity are the same problems that we've always had. We can look at the New Testament or the Old Testament or, our daily lives. It's all there. So that, and like, just a Wednesday morning group of men, we read a book a month on our business and my Bible study. And you know a lot of the guys in my Bible study, like Jacob and Jimmy and Brendan Gata. And like, so it's just, I'm so blessed to have all those men in my area and be able to come together with them on a regular basis and just share life and pray for one another. Um, and just have the different routines within my family with my kids. The first thing that I do is I pray I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with it. I don't know honestly how I found out about it, but it's the prayer of Saint Philaret. I think he's like a Russian saint. I don't really know a lot about him, but the prayer is just amazing. And I have it up, like I say it all the time, but it's, if you don't mind, do you mind if I
Yeah,
say it real quick?
yeah, do it.
O Lord, grant me to meet this coming day in peace. Help me in all things to rely upon your holy will. In every hour of the day, reveal your will to me. Bless my dealings with all who surround me. Teach me to treat all that comes to me throughout this day with peace of soul and with firm conviction that your will governs all. In all my deeds and words, guide my thoughts and feelings. In unforeseen events, let me not forget that all things are sent by you. Teach me to act firmly and wisely without embittering and embarrassing others. Give me the strength to bear the fatigue of the coming day with all that it shall bring. Direct my will according to your will. Teach me to pray. Pray yourself within me. So,
That is very
yeah.
good. I like that. That put it in much better words than I could. I like the sentiment though, right? That sentiment is really really powerful. I think this idea it's so hard. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about this on the podcast, but just the challenge of recognizing that we have this big conflict as Catholic entrepreneurs between control as entrepreneurs and release to God's will, right? Like we're just accepting whatever He brings us. It's so hard. Again, I honestly don't know how at least non-religious entrepreneurs can get through
Yeah.
because I don't know, like you got to be some kind of insane to get through this without relying on God, right? So but no, this is really helpful. I think the story is helpful. I appreciate the idea of sharing with other people, like having that community. In all honesty, that's part of the selfish reason why I created Catholic Founders, is because I wanted to have other
Mm.
people to talk to, right? I want to be around ambitious people who are also very Catholic, right? Who are
Yeah.
kind of walking that line between the two things, right? Not ambition for ambition's sake or for your own glory, but for God because He gave us these skills. So I think
Yeah.
that if anybody's listening who doesn't have that crew of people to hang out with, again, probably in person is going to be a key part of that. But at the bare minimum, a virtual community of people that you can just talk to when things are tough. It's going to
Yeah.
be so important to have.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because what you've created is yes, a place where these people are like Catholic founders, but also a place where people feel comfortable. You make people comfortable to just like share what's on their heart. They don't hold back, they don't sugarcoat it. And I've seen it in just a few little things. We just really are like, hey, what about this though? Like we challenge each other. And I like that. That's what
And
we
that's the
need.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to be kind of like I forget. There's somebody had a great saying about this. I don't know, but we need to be able to sharpen each other. We need to be able to kind of like figure these things out and work through them because I don't think that there is a specific book on Catholic entrepreneurship. Hopefully someday I can write that, but currently there is
Yeah.
not, right? And we're trying to figure this out with each other, right? So no, I appreciate that. Now let's go into. There's a lot of remarkable things that I guess maybe some people may not consider them remarkable. I consider them remarkable because it's just not standard in today's world. But the way you run your business, and in particular, I want to talk about one angle in particular initially, is focus on very simple principles that end up resulting in people really liking your work. For people who aren't familiar, if I understand, you guys aim to be not necessarily the cheapest auto glass company, but you aim to provide extremely good service, and you'll usually be a little bit more expensive, but not like we're not talking luxury. You're only fixing Mercedes Benz type things, right? You guys just are really good service. Now, this has been in part what has helped you guys grow and have more people come back and want to keep working with you. Maybe because the bar is low elsewhere, that they're just like in business and they don't necessarily care about the customers. But how do you engage your employees in a way to make sure that they treat their customers in a way that makes them want to come back?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think a lot of industries you find are the same way as well today, at least, where like 90% of them, they're just trying to be the cheapest, have like, let's go as high volume as you can, so that we can lower the cost as much as we can. Like, okay, like Amazon or Walmart or whatever. And I said, well, let me look at, just do like an analysis of this industry. And you had the national players that are usually like really, really expensive. And then everybody else is just fighting to be the cheapest. So I was like, well, what if I was just in the middle and I offered like just really great customer service, like whatever we say, we're going to do it. And then it's just a fair price, like a reasonable price. So if you're reaching out to those national brands, you're like, well, why are they so expensive? Let me try this guy. And it's not like super cheap where you're like, why would I try this guy? So that's what I tried to do, try to make it to where I can provide for my team. We can have the like benefits that, we should as like Catholic business owners, and yet, like we're just fairly priced. So it's not like gouging people and not trying to make as much as we possibly can. And yeah, with my team on the other end of it, I tell them like I tell them I'm the servant of servants. So I'm here to serve you so that you can then serve the customer. And the way that I serve you is the way that I want you to serve the customer. So like, or when I'm talking to the team, I say, we take care of each other so that we can then take care of the other. And that's it, just a good ecosystem to build off of.
Yeah,
People
I like
ask,
that.
yeah, people ask me, they're like, do you ask people if they're Catholic, or do you specifically try to pull from Catholic, the Catholic Church or things like that? Like, no, honestly, I just try to find people. I ask the right questions to find out, like, do you have a servant's heart? If you do, then come on in, and I think you'll fit with the culture that we have.
Yeah. How has you mentioned national brands, and I'm thinking of the story you told in the guild at one point around we were debating like using AI for different things, and you were like, hey, we actually have humans answer the phone still, right? Because maybe we could save some time, but we focus on doing this. What has been the result of that? That you do have this personal connection. You're answering the phones in a professional way, not just in a the lowest cost denominator where the guy never answers the phone and is very rude. How has that turned out for you so far?
Yeah, when AI came about, I didn't know how can I use it? Like, am I really like that's it? Like the world is going to change, and now I have to like let go of all my CSRs, like customer service reps, and we're just going to have AI do everything. And when I and I know this is the wrong way to think about it, like don't think about you, think about your customer. But when I answer the phone or I call someone and it's AI, like I'm frustrated with that. I hang up. And so I didn't want that to be the experience someone else had. Plus, like I think there is value in having that human to human interaction, right? That's very important. And so I didn't want to remove that. So the way that we've incorporated AI into our business is in like back end type of things. So like little processes that the AI can handle so that we have more opportunity to be like human to human interaction amongst each other and with our customers. So the tasks that, a computer or AI, whatever, can handle, we let them handle it so that we have more human to human interaction, so that the CSRs aren't feeling rushed on the phone and like they have to hang up to get to something else. But yeah, it's been good, and I think that there's opportunity to continue to grow, and I think that there's great companies out there that work with small businesses to incorporate AI in healthy ways. So yeah, it's something that I'm not great at. I'm much more like I can build computers and put cars together and things like that, but the software aspect is not really my specialty. But yeah, I've been trying to dabble in it a bit.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to understand how to utilize it. But the point I appreciate about what you're saying here is that we're focusing on not this kind of like negative or zero sum thinking of how can I employ fewer people, right? You're offering, hey, how can I help the people that we have more time with other people and have it be higher quality
Yeah,
interactions rather than just transactional, because like everybody's been to a convenience store and you go and you buy, and then there's experiences where you do just buy something from a convenience store and it's like, hey, that was actually surprisingly pleasant, right? Because it is, even though it is a transactional item or experience, you're having a more human connection with them in some way, right? And we can bring that into everything. And also, if you help your employees recognize that that is a potential opportunity in each interaction, it can then help elevate their experience, because who doesn't want to have more connection with their customers? Who wants to just be order taking and acting like a robot when they could be, getting to know the person, remembering their face, remembering their name, etc. On that topic, are there any particular ways that you kind of on a weekly basis try to engage your employees to keep them motivated and to keep them on track with the mission of what you guys are up to?
yeah. I I wouldn't say a weekly basis, but we have monthly meetings, and in those monthly meetings, I something that I was very bad at was sharing the big picture, where the company is and where we're going. I was constantly just telling people, hey, like keep up, the good work hard, and like have a lot of honor in the things that we're doing and where we're going, and read like 5-star reviews that customers left, things like that. I've been better recently in sharing like, hey, these were our sales goals and we hit those goals, or we just missed the goals and they're going to take us to here, so that when we get to here we can do this as a company and incorporate things like I've got this goal for this year to incorporate profit sharing into the business. I mean, you have to get to a certain point and then you can be doing that, but I think that the team will all have like a lot more, not just like buy-in, but desire to be their best for the sake of the whole. When you have things like that in place, and they deserve it. We've win Best of Charlotte, and we have these things that we get, awards or recognition, and it's not me anymore. I'm not the one out in the band doing the work. I'm not answering most of the calls. I have a part to play, but it's really them. They're the reason that we get these accolades and recognition. And so I want them to then like not just like the plaques on the wall, but also like like the monetary benefit of that. And I want to set it up in a way so that they're not just like trying to do as many jobs as they can or book as many jobs as they can and tie it to a commission, but rather yet like as a whole, like the company is healthy. Therefore, we're going to share of the fruits of our labor type of thing. And hopefully it works. I don't know. I just want to try to have that good I have good intentions
Yeah.
behind it. So hopefully it works out.
I do think it's interesting that connecting people to the mission is actually, it may seem normal for us as the entrepreneurs building the business, but I think it's oftentimes not understood. Let's say you're just a cashier, right, at a McDonald's
Hmm.
or something. Like if you don't understand that your role, your interactions with customers plays a big role in the overall experience, right? And if you can get that incentive structure financially, I think there's an important component where you should focus on. You can focus on the financial component, but you should also focus on the I respect this person on the other side of this register because they're human and they deserve they have infinite dignity, etc.
Hmm.
But then having the kind of the financial incentive as well can help them to recognize that, hey, they do have a role to play in the overall profitability of the business. They're not just a cog in a machine, they are interacting with it. As you've done some of this stuff so far, have you noticed any particular, I don't know if you have any data points on this, retention around your employees, or especially if you compare it to other, auto glass companies, like retention or just overall satisfaction, or when it does come time to recruit more people, like how does that go? Because you are integrating this kind of like motivational piece and helping them grow and helping them understand the big picture. If busyness and admin work are keeping you from growing your business, it's time to call Paraclete VA. We connect Catholic business owners with elite Catholic virtual assistants worldwide to handle your marketing, finance, and busy work. How it works is you pay $500 on the day they start, and if you're still happy after 30 days, you pay another $500. Most roles take less than 10 days to fill. To get started, just email admin@catholicfounders.com with a little bit about what you're looking for so you can get back to doing what matters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really cool to see actually. Our first hire, it was tough. It was tough to find someone to kind of get someone to take the risk in working for a small business that was just starting out, that didn't really have systems or processes in place. A lot of the time, it's been like referral, like someone else knows me and they know someone in the industry and they're like, hey, you're unhappy. Why don't you talk to Zuzu? Maybe, maybe he's hiring and you could work for him. I think you'd be much happier. And so it's been like referral, or people just started to hear about us now. And they're like, I want to see what that's about. And they come and we, it ends up being a good fit. We honestly have like very high retention. We keep a lot of the people that we hire, and the ones that we hire, that's probably because I'm too nice and I want to hire everyone, but they're not a good fit for the team. They just kind of like on their own leave the team within like 30 days. They just kind of find something else and they say like, this place sucks. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
it
be I'll
stings a
be
little bit.
better.
It stings a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes. I do find that even as a recruiter myself, finding the
Yeah.
right talent is always the hardest thing, right? It's like finding the people
Hmm.
that are motivated or that like convincing them to come work full time for you versus just like doing it on the side or part time, right?
Hmm.
It's always funny. The shoemaker has no shoes, etc. Right?
Yeah,
I hope your
yeah.
cars don't have any glass chips in them in the windows.
No, no. But yeah, thanks be to God. I love my team. They are just amazing. And I just want to continue to be able to bless them, and that Auto Glass Experts would be a blessing to them in that it lets them live their life outside of work without like the work being a drain on them. Like I want them to feel like exhausted at the end of the day because they've been experiencing life, not experiencing work. And it's not easy, but and we all have to work, right? That's just part of life. But I just want it to be a good place for them to work, and I think it is, for the team that's here. I think they enjoy it. I think they all wish that little things would change here and there, but God willing, we'll continue to get better each day.
Yeah, I mean that's really powerful. I think that definitely has to be probably the opening clip of like we're trying to help people live. I think you said live their life outside of work, right? The whole point of work is not
Yeah.
just for work's sake, but they can actually have and enjoy their lives, and not just in a way of consumption. I'm assuming, right? But like just actually recognize that if anybody thinks that they're going to motivate their employees to flip burgers or to just simply install you know or do a glass repair, like if that's going to be their purpose in life, it's kind of hard to imagine that motivating somebody. The purpose in life is going to be
Hmm.
having a family, spending time, like being involved in the community and just like experiencing life, right? Speaking of experiencing life, I would be curious, you've been at this for over 5 years now. Are there any particular ways that you have, through running a business, through being a steward of your employees, that you have recognized like a new perspective on how God interacts with us? Has there been any kind of like large spiritual, I guess you'd say, like eureka moments?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is like realized, obviously, I'm a guy and I always wanted to spend a lot of time with my dad, and he was always working and I get frustrated. And now I'm like, I went to him, like, it wasn't that long ago either, but I went to him and I said, Dad, I realize now, being a father and owning my own business, like how much it was a sacrifice for you more than it was a sacrifice for anyone else, the things that you were doing. And I was always frustrated with him, and I'm sure, like, he was frustrated with himself in the situation, but he's just, doing everything that he could. And I think it keeps you humble being a small business owner, like, because everything just falls on you as the one that's responsible. And so I find myself doing, like, how could I be better so that my employee doesn't make this mistake next time that causes this customer issue? And just seeing that, it really helps you to see how, like, everything that you do causes waves in the world, like not just in a professional thing, but in a private sense. Like, it makes me just want to be better at everything, because the way that I am, like, a parent, that I father my children, that I am a husband, like all of that, like, it's going to affect my wife, it's going to affect my kids, and then they're going to affect someone else in this same way. Like, it's all just like, like, just waves going out into the world, that I realized, like, what my dad did affected me. Now what I do affects them. And but any, like, one specific thing, I don't know. But that's the one thing that comes to mind, is just how our decisions, or like us, like, doing something 80% rather than 100%, or just like out of ignorance doing something, we grow and learn, and just it keeps you humble. Going back to that, when you said, like, you don't know how someone who's, like, doesn't have that, like a heavenly power, or, God, or something that they're, like, trying to live by, how they do it, I don't know, because otherwise, like, you just blame yourself, or you blame your team, or you blame the
Hmm.
customer. Someone's to blame. And really, it's just, like, we could all just be better.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's definitely something I think about right now because my daughter is 16 months and we've got another one on the way and
God bless her.
I'm always wondering about
Congratulations.
this. Thanks, man. I'm always thinking about this. It's like, I don't want to be, hey, Kita, you gotta stay out, like close the office door type of thing, right? I work from home because I want her to be able to have, obviously she's very young, so I don't know if she'll have too many memories, but I'm sure it will still affect her like emotionally, right? If dad's not around. It's this balance of like how hard do I push in order to grow the business versus to stay with the family. And this is like, I didn't necessarily plan to ask this question in particular, but it's really on my heart to ask you is how do you, as you grow your business, consider the idea of growth? Because, it sounds like, if I understand correctly, in most cases, you've got a team to handle a lot of things, right? So you can grow and you can lead the team. I'm in a position where I have to deliver most of our services still, and I have employees that kind of help me do that to an extent. But I'm at the end of the day, I'm still responsible for that. Growing the business to the point where it flips is really like my hope someday, but it's really hard. So how do you consider growth and just like growing, worried about the future of potentially having more responsibility where it is harder to deal with, being with family, et cetera. Like how do you work through that yourself?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the first time that I thought about it was my CPA, Catholic man, 7 kids, I think. And he looked at me, he said, You're gonna come to a point where you're going to either sacrifice your family for the business, or your business for the family, because it will not continue this trajectory this way with balance. Something has to give. And I said, wow, that's so interesting that you say that, because I've been feeling, like, a little bit bad about the fact that I know I'm sacrificing the business for my family. And I was like I feel bad that I feel bad about that, because that's what I want to do. That's why I'm making that decision, because that's what's important to me. The business will be fine. I don't need to see it grow like this certain amount. All right. But yeah, I think about that now, and I know that that's the case. And the first people that I hired in 2021, I hired because I was going to be getting married. And I said, I don't want to be spending 10 to 12 hours every single day working outside, like in the heat and the cold, in the rain, whatever it is, and then come home and have nothing to give to my wife, who was moving cross country to marry me. And so, it wasn't that long ago that that's the way that it was. And even after that, it was a lot of it relied on me. But you know what? By the time we had Micah, our oldest, we were able to leave for 40 days, go to the Middle East, go visit family, introduce Micah to the family, and the business ran and it ran well. And I just like, my team, they're such a blessing, and they would probably say, like hopefully the same about me, that I'm a blessing in their lives as well. But that's the thing is like, if they have things as well, they go and they take time off. But it's trusting in God, and it's knowing like this is my goal, this is what is on my heart, and it's on my heart for a reason. And let me try to figure out what that looks like in the world. So you end up like you're already blessing people with work, and you're going to continue to bless people with work. And it's funny, you bless people with work, and then you give people, like the ability to do what it is that you want to do by having this company that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
you're finding people, people.
Yeah. How do you, I don't know if this is something you do have in your mind, but like, how do you reconcile, if you have this at all, the idea of comparing yourself with other people who have achieved certain amounts by your age? Like, for me, this is something I'm always going through. It's like I'm reading. I was just listening to a series on Alexander Hamilton, and I'm thinking like, man, this guy achieved so much before he was even my age, and like that feeling of just like, oh man, like I didn't achieve these things, or other people in modern times, right? Do you consider that at all, or do you have those thoughts? And if so, like how do you handle them typically?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I'm 40. I have a 1-year old and a 2-year old. Like most, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people in the Catholic circles, they, by the time they're 40, their kids are like in college or have kids or something. And I'm confused as to even how that's possible. And I wanted to get married at 18. I wanted to get married when I was 16. I tried to get married my girlfriend. Like, like I wanted marriage, we all desire stability and things, but it's just, that's the way that things played out. And I love it. Like when it happens and you're like, wow, like this is greater than I could have even imagined. It's just, yeah, you just constantly are just thanking God and humbled by the fact that you try to rush into something or force something to happen. And God just did it at the time that, you were ready and they were ready and everything happened. And I know that's like personal, but, and not business, but in this, like I would read books, and I forget who it was, some like CEO of some great company, I think like Airbnb or something like that. He like bought a house at 19 and started renting it out and was making money. Like I was like, wow, I was 19 and I bought a house and had my friends living in it and was making money and living for free. Like why wasn't that like the like starting point of some like, multi-billion dollar company, like, but thanks be to God, that like I am where I am today, that I went to seminary, one, like Catholic men. I don't care. Like, if you 1% think that you're going to be a priest, go to seminary. If the diocese or the religious community or whatever will let you go to seminary. Okay. You're not going to be worse off for going to seminary. You're going to be better off. Because, like, I was an idiot before, I was an idiot after, but I was a much better idiot after than I was before. Okay. Like, I always tell people, like, I'm the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the everything that I am today, because those 3 years just took everything that God was doing and it just like let me like sit in it and dwell in it. All right. Like, and it was just amazing, fantastic. And I don't know. For those of you that didn't have great experiences in seminary, I'm sorry, but I just think that it was so great. It was such a gift. And I got to experience so many things and learn about myself. And yeah, so, uh,
I like that a
yeah,
lot. I think the idea of exploring that component is very important. I was able to discern the religious life early on, and if I hadn't done that, I would definitely wonder, was that for me? But I have no, second
yeah.
guesses now because I had the opportunity to do so. Ready to do business with people who actually share your faith? Join the Catholic Founders Guild today. For just $100 a year, you get access to our membership directory, expert-led monthly calls, and a network of potential investors and partners. There's no heavy time commitment, just a shared belief that we are all called to be instruments of God's will in the world, and not our own. Upgrade your subscription at CatholicFounders.com/subscribe. I'm confident in saying it's the best $10 a month you'll ever spend on your business. See you in the Guild. We're running out of time here, so I wanna ask you kind of one other big question, and then we'll go into maybe some rapid fire. Obviously, running a business is very like there's a lot going on. You're busy, and you're very motivated by the faith, as obvious from this conversation or from our other conversations. I always like to think about if St. Paul were alive today, like if he were an entrepreneur and he were doing his thing, like what would it look like? Because he was obviously quite busy, I guess you could say, in terms of modern terms, but he was obviously very holy. So do you have your own idea of what that might look like today? Like how would somebody kind of imitate St. Paul in today's time, being busy, being out there, being active, like what doing whatever they can to bring people to God, but
Yeah.
still kind of participating in 21st century life.
Yeah. Yeah. Like St. Paul, you could tell like he was a bit messy, it wasn't like structured and organized, but it worked, right? And I think it's like in Proverbs maybe, but it's like commit to the Lord, whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. So it's like, like you do it with the right intentions, like through a life of prayer, right? You take the time and like God will just put the things in front of you that you need, like that van, the certain people that have helped me along the way, like I mean, even like my wife, like it just everything has just been such a blessing and everything was just I don't feel like I was ever just really like searching for this one thing. It's just kind of just trying to do the Lord's will and then it just came to be. And I feel like you see that in St. Paul because he like goes out into the desert and then he comes back randomly and then he's going up and he's it's like it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of he didn't have like a 10-year plan, he just said like I want to do the Lord's will and so it worked out. So yeah, I think like commit to the Lord, and then he will establish the plans. I think if we live that out, we can maybe try to imitate St. Paul, hopefully. St. Paul, I'm sorry if that was wrong.
Uh, I mean, that's really powerful. I think it's really
Yeah.
difficult because I'm obviously a little earlier in my entrepreneurial journey, and I think we're about two years into running my business. It's always a question of like is the challenge and the difficulty supposed something I'm supposed to just like keep kind of working through and powering through because God put it here and we have work and we are paying our bills. I think a lot of times when things are hard or negative, we tend to blow it out of proportion to what it really is. Like it just feels really bad when you lose a client or you
Hmm.
lose that. In reality, it doesn't have too much of an impact. But it's a question of like, okay, well, does that difficulty mean that it's God telling me to go do something else? Did God put this one person in my life because I'm supposed to go in a totally different direction? Like, just figuring out and sorting through that is so confusing to me at all times.
Hmm.
And I know that a
Yeah.
lot of the greatest entrepreneurs, they always talk about how you need to have focus and commitment to your goal. Like you can't constantly be second guessing, otherwise you lose the compounding of building the business, right? But then in our case, like the objective isn't building the business. The objective isn't building a big enterprise. The objective is following God's will. And it's like,
Hmm.
what is it? St. Paul, he's there and he's there. He's moving all around, and it appears as a lack of commitment to one particular train of thought. Right? It's just one
Yeah.
commitment to God that has the thread throughout the whole thing, but no particular like, hey, I'm gonna go and make this one city, evangelize, and then I'm just gonna take care of
Yeah.
that, right? But I also like the audacity, I guess you could say, of him just being like, I'm gonna go wherever, right? I'm gonna like everybody is my target audience.
Yeah, and sometimes against his will, right? I mean, the writings of St. Paul, sometimes they're from a prison, and he's just talking about like, I just, got beat almost, to death, like, so it hit that story. Like he could have been looking at, maybe he was looking at his life like, God, I think I'm failing you, but I'm just going to continue to try. But obviously, I'm not successful, right? Because I've been in prison this many times and kicked out of cities and beaten up. Like that's not the story of success in, the world's point of view.
Yeah,
And sometimes, in our business, we just kind of feel like, maybe we get beatings from our customers or, employees that maybe
yeah,
we don't deserve. And
for
sometimes we
sure.
do, but, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
wow.
I mean, since we were talking about St. Paul, that's just those are the things that I think about when I think of St. Paul is like, wow, like he was just so committed to serving the Lord and driven in doing that nothing was going to get in his way. God willing, we have that same drive and confidence that we know that we're doing the right thing. And maybe the humility to know, like I mentioned that I said to myself, like in prayer, like, Lord, if this is not what I was supposed to be doing, or I messed this up, like just take it away and I'll go work for someone. I'll go do whatever. It doesn't matter as long as I'm doing your will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to do that because again, we have this there's so many conflicting things about the way the world looks at us. And it's not even always about having the most money or appearing successful. It can be sometimes just the simple thing around like the insecurity of providing for your family. It's like I can't let something go, or I can't give up on this because how am I going to pay the bills and take care of my kids and my wife? So there's just so many like this is why I find this whole thing like just very fascinating because it to me is the trail that we are called to hike towards holiness. For those who are called to entrepreneurship, it is, right? And I'm not going to speculate as to why. I mean, maybe some people have it'd be too easy for them otherwise, or it'd be too hard. I don't know. Like just having those challenges in front of us is a way that we can recognize God is in our lives. He's trying to talk to us. He's trying to teach us things along the way.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate your thoughts on St. Paul, by the way. I think that's very fascinating. So let's wrap things up here with a little bit of rapid fire. So what is your favorite scripture?
Well, Zuhair, I found out while I was living in the Middle East, means like enlightenment or beacon of light. And I don't know exactly where it is, but it's in the Gospels, maybe Matthew, I don't know. But let your light shine before others so that they will see your good works and glorify your God in heaven. Something like that is something I've been trying to live by all the time, that I would be a light in this world, and through that light, people would know that the source of that light is Christ, and that they would then seek him as well. So that's the one that I try to live my life by.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's just the image I always think about, like fiber optics, right? It's like the light is
Mm,
we're just literally there, and Jesus is shining through us to everybody else around us.
yeah.
And it's funny because like we don't necessarily know how it works. We don't know. We can't explain it. But as long as we are truly trying to be that conduit or that channel, we don't have to know what's going on in the other person's life. Like Jesus knows, God knows what's going on. He knows how to touch them through us, right? It's such a very like mystical experience if you think about it, that we get to basically be the when you say instrument, like to put it in more specific terms, like the tool that flips the burger, or like that has the
Hmm.
interaction with the other person. And
Yeah.
God could do that directly to them if he wanted to, but he also chooses to have us be involved in that work. And it's just such a like a mystical thing if you think about it. What is your favorite entrepreneur? Or who is your favorite entrepreneur?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think there's a lot of good things. I mean, obviously, maybe not obviously, but I think of the ones closest to me, like Jimmy Coleman or Jacob Ciccarelli, right? That just like I remember Jacob talking about, I think it would be really cool if we did this thing with like AI and tied it into the Catholic faith. And now you see like truthfully and what it is. And just like, I think that's like, there's way more risk in that, or Jimmy being like, this is this like thing that I really want to give to the faith and trust in that. Like mine is blue collar. I just need to like bolts and glass and take that off. Like blue collar stuff is like, it's a lot easier. There's less like trust in God, I feel, than like giving something like and being like very faith oriented. So I really respect them. But bigger than that, I don't know. That's a good one. That's one I'll have to think about.
I mean, I think those guys are really, really good people to look up to. So those are good
Yeah,
names.
yeah.
Who is your favorite saint?
We talked about Saint Jose Maria Escriva. I think, I have a lot of respect for him, but I'm born on the feast of Saint Andrew. So I always tend to go back to him that like, hey, Lord, here's a few fish and loaves. Like, let's feed the people with this, like that kind of like positivity. Everything's going to be all right, no matter what the situation you find yourself in with Andrew. So yeah, I have him on my little keychain.
I like that.
So
I haven't
yeah.
actually heard anybody really reference that. That's a new one for me. And then, what's your favorite devotion?
A favorite devotion, night prayer. Yeah. We do night prayer, me and the boys, and having like Micah turns 3 on the 22nd, but having like an almost 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old and doing night prayer, right? Like the 1.5-year-old blows out the candle and sings happy birthday, and then like so you're like doing your best, but they honestly like they know a lot of our prayers, and it's like, in the East, it's like a little bit like there's some complexity to it. It's just really, really cool to see them walk around praying, Holy God, Holy Mighty One, Holy Immortal One, have mercy on us, and pray to the Lord, and just even just ramble, and we just walk around the house in a circle. I don't know why we always walk around the house in a circle, but we do. I guess, like the little processions and things that we do in the Eastern Church. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
the night
I like
prayer with
that.
the kids.
I'm excited for Kita's just like starting to figure out the sign of the cross, and it's always hilarious.
Yeah.
It's such a
Well, it's gonna
blessing
look like
watching.
this for a while.
Yeah, she only gets the head part usually.
Uh-huh.
Very good, man. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Again, I knew this was gonna be a good conversation, but I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your wisdom with me, and also with everybody else listening. So thanks for coming on, man. This has been a pleasure. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you so much. God bless.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Let's go through my favorite takeaways from this conversation. First, I'm really fascinated by how he considers himself the servant of the servants with his team. Obviously, this is a very good reflection or kind of mirroring of Christ's life. I appreciate his perspective on timing, that we often try to rush things, but God has his own timing for us, and we shouldn't really try to fight it too much. We should really lean into whatever that pace is that God is calling us to. And it's not something, in a soft way, or it sounds kind of docile in a way that some people may be turned off by. But the general point is, if God is directing us, if we believe that we are his instruments, then we should, work hard and everything, but we can't necessarily always control the timing of things, because oftentimes we're very impatient and God has his own timing. So just learn to observe that and to lean into it for whenever it is his time. I also really liked his perspective on St. Paul. He said something like he was all over the place, showing that even with the greatest saints, nothing is a perfect straight line. We always look back and think, oh, wow, they did this and then they did this and it was all clear. But in St. Paul's case, he was kind of like bouncing around the region. He was all over the place, just kind of going as the Spirit called him. And it's very unacceptable to do that these days, or at least the world makes it sound unacceptable. Everything's supposed to be planned and under your control, but it's all total nonsense. Nobody has true control over everything that happens in their life. So we need to walk with one foot in front of the other, allowing God to guide us and trusting in him that he will take us where he wants, because he promises us that he will be with us. Finally, I think my favorite part is how they make sure that humans are answering the phones, not just, using AI. This has actually led to people appreciating the human connection that they get when they pick up the phone. They don't have to listen to some menu of options, etc. And they've noticed a lot of people are excited about that. They say, "Wow, like this is crazy. I got a human on the phone." And if you can kind of extrapolate that forward, the people enjoy the experience of buying from these guys more, right? So no AI, leaning into the human component. Yes, it might be a little bit more expensive, but it sounds as though in Zuhair's case, they might actually be making more money because of it, because people know that they're going to get a human when they call. They don't have to wait through some menu options, etc. I do have a favor to ask you, though. Please, if you enjoy this content, share this podcast with your friends. We are also on YouTube, so you can subscribe there if you prefer to watch there. I really, really mean it. Please share this with your friends, people who might find interest in this content, people who are Catholic entrepreneurs or who are Catholics who you think are, potentially interested in starting a business, or they've always talked about being an entrepreneur. The goal of what we're doing here is to help Catholics start and grow their businesses. We want them to have the confidence to get going, and then the support network and all the resources to grow their business in a way that is, again, not in odds or not at odds with their faith, but rather that their business, if they are an entrepreneur, that they're called to do this and to do it well so that they can get to heaven because of their business, not in spite of it. So please do share it around. Finally, if you are one of those people who is looking to start a business or you're debating it, I would consider joining the Catholic Founders Guild. You can be surrounded by other Catholic business owners who are doing the same thing. They're either getting started or they're growing their business, and we support each other. We've got a lot of resources there, and we're only at the very beginning. So it's only $100 a year to join, so anybody can afford it. But you get tons of resources. You get friends to build with. You get a directory of other people if you need to buy from other Catholics. There's a lot of stuff there. I'm very confident that what we're offering is worth far more than $100 a year. But jump into the Catholic Founders Guild if you're interested today. You can do that by going to CatholicFounders.com/subscribe. We are here to support you and help you as you grow and get your business started and off the ground and as you scale. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, don't forget that you were created to create. See you next time on Catholic Founders.